Welcome to the Day One podcast. I'm Adam Daly.
And I'm Brett Nord.
Welcome back to another week of our show. We're excited,
welcome everybody.
Yeah, we're excited to talk about all things Day One.
Mm-hmm.
And we have an interview with another user.
We do.
Daniel from South Africa.
Right.
So that'll be fun. We'll have that coming up here on the show.
Mm-hmm.
First, we want to talk about some updates. There's not a whole lot I have to give to you right now. We're kind of in the middle of some builds. You may have noticed as our releases go out, we tend to focus on, some bigger builds, and then if we need to make smaller fixes, those go out in dot releases, I guess you call them.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I don't know if there's an official name for that, but that's what I'll call them.
Minor,
the dot releases.
Yeah.
So the team's working on some great stuff right now. As you know, video is still coming down the pipeline. There's things to consider there, like length and size and quality, because if you're using sync, we want all this to work for you. So there's a lot of considerations going into this project. Thanks for your patience. When I used to not work for a software company, sometimes you feel like, well, it's just like flipping a switch, right? Just turn on the video support.
Sure. You're just adding on to what you already have. Yeah. You don't realize it's breaking some things that you've already
It can. There's a lot of, screen constraints and all that kind of stuff. And how does it work with sync and your other devices? And what do the playback controls look like? And anyway, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in there that, our engineers are writing lines of code to make that work. And we're very thankful for them, and they do a great job. And that also coincides with the Instagram importer, because video support is part of that Instagram importer, because your videos, if you're recording those on Instagram, will also be pulled in.
Right.
So all of that is connected there.
Tied together.
Yeah. And that's great. We've been testing internally both of these features. I can tell you they're getting there. They're working.
And right when we're about to release, we're going to have Josh on, right? We talked about that, having him on to explain the process, and he might get a little bit technical, but it'll be worth it.
He's one of our web server engineers, and he's working on the Instagram project. We wanted to have him on after that's released or close to it, so that he can talk about kind of the intricacies behind it, what we're doing on our end, and how all that works. Because I find that fascinating, and I hope our listeners do too. I think that's part of the reason of our show, is have an inside glimpse of a small software company. So so those are coming. Video and IG, they're Instagram, they're closely related to each other, and it's all being worked on. So in addition to that, I should mention also just progress is still being made on the web/server. I know we've had customers contact us about, when are you going to have an app for the web? And I totally understand your urgency on that one. It's also part of ours. What's happening, and I've explained this to people that have written in, is what we're doing. The server web team are working on a back-end server project first, and part of that is changing some of the services we use to better support the future of Day One, to better support handling multimedia and instant access on your devices and stuff like that. So big back-end server project is happening first, and that's got to be completed before we finish other things like the fully functional web app or book printing on the web, so it can be done on any device. So it's being worked on, and there's progress being made. It's just
making sure it's secure along the way.
Yeah, security,
so we don't put passwords in a plain text file, for example.
Yep, that's a big one.
Facebook.
That's a big one. We care about your security, and that's our number one goal. So thanks for your patience. These are not small projects. They are going to take some time, but we're working on them. Those of you who stuck with us with end-to-end encryption, that was a big project. And people, I'm sure people wanted it sooner rather than later, and I get that. That totally makes sense, especially with your private thoughts. But once it was done, we made good on that promise, and we're good for it.
I had a great discussion this last week with a user that didn't care much about security. He didn't say it was something that he sought out. He just assumed. And then he talked to a friend of his that went to a security conference. Totally freaked him out and spooked him. Like, you got to watch your stuff. So he went to Day One thinking, okay, I've got to figure out how to turn on encryption, or if that's an option. He was like, I was blown away to find out end-to-end was already incorporated. Yep. And he was grateful for that, so he thanked the team.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, yes, that's where I wanted to get with that is, we're still planning on a functional web app, There's just some projects that need to be completed on the back end first, and those are going to take some time. And we've been working on them for a little bit of time. It's all about finding what works with our data models. If you know, and this is me just gleaning off of what they talk about. Again, I'm not a software engineer, so I'm speaking to you as a layman. I mean, I can help you power on and power off your device, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I don't give myself enough credit. But anyway, that's being worked on. Another thing I wanted to bring up, and I know we've talked about this a little bit, templates. Work has begun on template support, where you can customize on-demand templates that you can load up into any entry at any time. So outside of the reminder feature, which is currently where you have to do it, you'll be able to access custom-made templates. You can even turn an entry that you've started to create. Like, let's say you start creating some headers or some bullet points. You can turn an entry into a template. You can say, use this entry as a template. It'll load it up, and then you can access those on demand whenever you want.
Can I talk just a second about one thing, a project we're going to be doing in testing templates?
Please.
Yes. So this last week I talked to a friend that I've met. He's now a friend with Red Bull Performance.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So in Santa Monica, they have a lab, basically. Yeah, it's a lab. They bring athletes in, they train them, they have the best of science and technology and fitness. And one thing they want to do to be full-rounded holistic is to have the athletes record journal as they go along. Yeah, so their journey while they're there at the performance center, as well as a few months after, not just a log to keep track of what they're doing, but also how they're feeling emotion. They see that that's so much part of the overall holistic feel for an athlete. So
that makes
great
sense.
Stuff. Yeah, and so with templates, it's a perfect use case for us to be trying with them and testing with them how the templates model will work.
Excellent.
So
Excellent.
I'm excited about that. We'll have more about that as we go along, of course.
Well, I know that's been a big ask too. For users wanting like bullet journaling or some sort of template that they can use each day, some sort of daily gathering of information. It makes a lot of sense. And so that project has begun. We've seen some initial design work on there and some initial internal alpha releases of that. So stay tuned. I'm excited. A lot of good things that I think, you know, I've mentioned this a million times, and I'll do that all the time.
Yeah, billion one.
But I think if I can speak for Paul a little bit, he's very deliberate on the features and enhancements that make it into day one.
Sure.
First and foremost, like, it's an app he wants to use, and you know what's going to make it the best journaling app. And so those are all considerations to be made when adding features or when enhancing them or changing them and stuff like that. So we're really trying to make that with everyone's best interest in mind. So anyway, templates.
Yes.
The last thing I wanted to mention real quick is we've had some requests via email or other feedback about enhancements to the podcast itself. And thank you so much for sending those in. They're all under consideration. We've got a list going here of stuff we want to do. Let me just mention a couple of those to let you know that they're on our mind. One, transcripted episodes where you can go and read them instead of having to listen to the full show. Two would be chapter markers in our episodes, so we can split apart the update information versus the interviews and stuff like that. Anything else? Just more enhanced show notes like on the web where people could go and glance and see what we talk about per episode. We do have a podcast page, but right now it just links to the episodes themselves with some brief descriptions about each episode. So we want to enhance that for sure. Like, that's definitely on our mind. We are trying to balance that with the existing responsibilities Brett and I both have at the company. Like, this is a secondary kind of role for us. We love doing it. There's no doubt about that. And I think it's important as well. As we've listened to you, as we've heard feedback on social media or via email, we think this is an awesome platform, an awesome medium to communicate with our users. And so we want to keep that going.
And we're selfish too, because we each get ideas.
Absolutely.
And feel like it's worth listening and doing for that. And just a point of making it that we never plan to have ads. So I think that also is something where we're trying to keep lean with the use of the podcast. So we don't have to underwrite it with any outside money.
Exactly. This podcast is brought to you by our subscribers that help keep Day One in business, and you know, we're able to do this without hearing a Stampin' Up ad.
Right. Whatever that is.
You don't know Stampin' Up?
I do.
Okay. It's like a Hobby Lobby thing. Like, it's famous.
Yeah.
All right.
One thing that's also, and this will tie into our interview, is it's awesome that we live in today's technology to be able to do these podcasts for free and then have it hit the world. And as a result of that, we've had engagement from users all around the world. And that's the fun part of what I do, is being able to discuss day one with them.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about Daniel.
We've been able to get to know a lot of cool people.
We have.
So Daniel's next here.
That's right.
This is from a pre-recorded conversation that you had with him, and
it is. In fact, I had to go deep into the archives. We've done a lot of live,
we have recently
hosts or guests, and so this actually was 7 months ago, if you can believe it.
Nice.
I actually checked in with Daniel to make sure he was still using day one, and he is every day. So it's like, ooh, that would be really bad if he had moved on or decided, journaling's not for me.
Yeah. No, we're glad to have you, Daniel. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to have a conversation.
Yes. Here's this quick intro.
Hi, I'm Daniel. I'm from Johannesburg in South Africa.
There we go. So he first told me about his journey, how he found journaling in general, and then made his way onto day one.
Well, I did grow up keeping a journal. I was fairly sporadic. I used to keep a journal almost every day when I was on my mission. I kept it after that. That was written. Before that was a written journal, and then after that, I kind of kept journal very sporadically. Maybe once a month I'd write something.
Yes.
And then and then I found Day One app, and I started writing, and it's been 5 years now.
Wow.
April 2013 is when I made my first entry.
Very
I really
cool.
liked how Day One was just, I could just write something quickly and easily, and I could write more content in a shorter period of time than if I just wrote things down. And then since then, I wrote in it several times a week for about 2 years. And then at the beginning of 2015, I made a resolution that I was going to write in my journal every single day.
Nice.
Like a traditional journal, like, what I did for the day. Since 2015, I've been able to keep a journal every day, and it's become such a habit now. I don't miss it. And it's great. It's really become a part of my life. Yeah.
So it sounds like he started with Day One Classic in 2013,
right?
And then would have upgraded to 2.0 in 2016. So 3 years of Classic use. And I love stories of consistency like that. I strive to do it. I do fairly well on things that I care about, and maybe that's the difference. Is it's easier to build habits on something you're actually invested in, right?
For sure.
Or am I pulling that out of the ether?
No, that's totally true. Right. And I found that a lot. It's kind of interesting with users that something gets them to journal, whether like he served a mission for his church. Some people are, when they're doing their scripture study, if they're into that, they're also recording reflection through mental health, but it always starts with something like that. And then if they can get past that hurdle of making it a habit or seeing the value in it, and then they continue on. Yep. So I got a little deeper into the reasons or his tips on how to stay consistent.
Awesome.
Oh, that's great. That's so good to hear. What would you say to somebody that's hasn't caught it like you have, that's, struggling, that is just the opposite? It's like they can't make it stick.
It's funny you should mention that, because before when I decided to start writing in my journal every single day, it was like, and I think a lot of us have these things. There's certain habits that we really want to do, but I think we tell ourselves, "Oh no, that's too much of a lofty goal," or I don't have the discipline, or we come up with many reasons why we can't do it. And I just decided one day I'm gonna write in my journal every single day, and I just did it. And it wasn't. I'd made many excuses before why I couldn't do it every day. I thought, no, it's too difficult. I don't have time to do it every day. And then I just made the decision, and I tried, and I did it. And then since then, I don't miss a day.
Maybe we should collaborate with Nike or something. Just
Just
do it.
That's right.
Because that's
Right.
he just did it. That makes sense, and I there's certainly personality types that I think can do that.
Right.
I'd love to dive deeper and find out, like, how do we address that with someone who doesn't feel that kind of motivation? To just be like, I'm going to do this every day without some sort of like other.
Sure.
What am I going to put in here every day? Or I need to record my calories every day, or whatever it is, right? Whatever it is.
Couple things, and we've heard this, and we've talked about this in the podcast in the past, that you need to define what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So if it means, and Daniel gets into that on another soundbite, which I'll just talk about instead of playing it, but defining what that means. If it's a few words, you've done an entry for the day.
Yeah.
And then I think back to your point of counting calories, everything you read about habits, one of the steps is usually accountability, like saying it out loud, telling friends, hey, I'm doing this program, kind of for accountability to remind yourself, but it's just making a commitment and even saying it to yourself every day. I'm writing a journal.
Yeah.
We talked about this with running in the past, I think, the idea of, what makes you a runner? Well, just that you run. It's not that you have to be the fastest or an athlete or have the body or the look or whatever for it. It's just you do the act of running.
Yeah.
You are now a runner. Same thing with journaling or diary or writing. It's just, if you just do it, and I think that's what he's saying. I just said, I'm going to do it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I like it.
So in addition to setting a goal to record every day, what do you think, Adam, about recording or setting a goal to set so many words or write so many words in a day?
Yeah, that's totally fine too, if that's how you define it again.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like I would start having to make stuff up if I were binding myself to that, or where it's more I'm doing it out of a duty.
Right.
And maybe that's fine for the first while as you establish that goal and it starts to become easier. That I'm not trying to disagree with that kind of mentality.
Sure.
Just for me, I couldn't, like, I don't know. I feel like I would. It would be meaningless data for me personally to set myself. I gotta do 200 words today or something.
Right.
Or maybe I start it real slow and do 50 words.
Or if you find yourself too wordy, you can do the opposite, like an under goal.
Oh, there you
can't write more than
keep it under 75 words or whatever. Yeah, absolutely.
Or I see it a lot with aspiring writers, right? The idea of writing every day. So I want to set a goal to write 1,000 words a day. I see that a lot for somebody that wants to be a better writer for other reasons, if they're writing novels or short stories. Daniel actually used that as an incentive for him to keep a word
There you
count.
go.
I follow maybe like a the classical journal ritual. So before go to sleep, I have a bedtime routine, and it fits into my bedtime routine. And I think that's one of the things that also helps me be consistent. It's become like brushing your teeth before going to bed. It's that much of a habit now. Mm-hmm. So, but also part of my ritual and something else, I guess this may be a tip for people who are trying to get into writing their journal. So I worked out that when I used to write in my journal on a written, when I used to have a written journal, I worked out that on average, it would take me about 15 minutes to write 220 words. So then I thought, well, let me just set a goal that when I write in my journal, I'll give myself either 15 minutes or 220 words.
I like that.
So that way, I still fill up that time. I mean, I might find where I'll spend 15 minutes, but because I'm thinking so much about what I'm writing, I only write like 100 words. But there's other times where it'll take me 7 minutes or 10 minutes to write 220 words. So, setting that little goal of the amount of words to write also helps me as well. Because I don't have to feel so overwhelmed about writing so much.
Yeah, I like that option too.
Yeah, if you the either or is perfect, I think, because then if I do end up sitting there for 13 and a half minutes trying to come up with something, I won't feel as bad.
And that's just the title of your entry. Yeah.
Hey, I won't say most. a number of mine are just a title and some images.
Sure. It's okay.
But sometimes I feel like that's all I need.
Of course.
The photos kind of speak for themselves. If I have any additional thoughts or something about the event or whatever, then I'll add those in there. But
so it's 1,001 words because the photo was worth.
Yep. See, exactly. I'm already meeting that quota.
Yeah, see, awesome. Good job. And this is the first I've never heard somebody say that day one could actually cause some tension in your marriage.
You sit on that chair. My wife, we often joke that if it's in the evening, we're getting ready for bed, and she's sitting in the chair. I say, well, that's where I sit to write in my journal, before I go to bed. And then, and then shame, she's very kind. She lets me sit in my chair. But there's been a few times where she says, no, you can sit in your bed and write in your journal.
So a specific place he likes to journal in that chair.
I get it.
Yeah, sure.
I get it. I have my things.
Right.
I have my
particular. Yeah.
Hey, I need to sit there. Yeah, no problem.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Very good. He also talked with tips using his widget, the iPhone, how you have the widgets there to track. And he uses that as a barometer to know how he's writing and how many words and using that.
What's also useful is on the widget on the app, the stats, I think the usage statistics, the usage stats. It shows you a little graph of the amount of words per day. So I can also keep track of there and see how I'm doing in reaching that that goal per day.
Awesome.
There are 4 really good widgets for day one. If you're not familiar with that, if you go into the today screen, I believe that's what they call it, right? Mm-hmm. There is the activity feed widget you can enable. Now this is pretty cool because it'll show you your recent locations, and just off the front of it you'll see 2 of them, but you can tap show more and it will show you 4 or 5 recent locations.
Yes.
And there'll be an option to create an entry at that location or edit an existing entry that you may have already created at your current location, etc., or you can open the full activity feed. The other ones are nearby entries, which I think is fun. Because it'll show you entries that you've created nearby where you are currently. So if you're traveling around or whatever, you can see some entries you created. Or there's the On This Day widget.
Love it.
You can see any entries that you've created in past years. It does contain today, and we've had mixed feedback on that. Technically, today is on this day,
right?
Because it's this day, right?
Yeah.
But some people have asked, can it just be the ones in past years, etc. I get their perspective. Right now, it just shows both. And then there's one last one. This is probably what he was talking about, the usage stats, where he can see how many entries per day. If you tap on it, it'll switch to words per day in the past 50 days. So you can switch between those 2 views if you just tap on it. See different graphs.
Very cool. What do you have on yours?
For which one?
Widget for day one.
Well, what do you mean? I've got
So you have, for example, see mine. I've got activity feed and On This Day.
Yeah, I've got all 4.
Okay, so
that's because I'm always looking at all 4 of them.
Nice.
You can see my entries per day. The past 10 days, it's usually 1 or 2 per day. And then words, I'm very sporadic. As you can see, sometimes I go over like 2,000 words.
Yeah.
And other days, it's like 6 words.
I have to get better about using widgets. I forget that it's there.
There's, you know what? Depending on the app, I found some more useful than others, obviously, but we've got some cool ones that you might want to check out. Yeah. And if you're curious, you can look at those on help.dayoneapp.com. Just search widgets.
Shortcuts is a great one to have too.
Yep, absolutely.
Accessible.
Absolutely.
So good stuff. All right. Well, a couple more tips from Daniel to help us all in our day one journey. Here's one.
The ritual aspect is very important because it's just also just at the end of the day, just sitting in that same place. It just becomes like your little paradise, where you can just sit and just write your feelings, write what happened. Definitely for me, not everyone is someone who, not everyone likes to do the same things, the same place, same time every day. Sure. But I find that for me, that helps me to be consistent.
Are you one of those type, Adam?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something you have to build to, for sure.
Yeah. I find that if I don't, I just won't do it. I mean, I forget to do it. So I have to have in my mind a place, a time. But I see both. I talk to people that say, no, I like to mix it up, or I don't like to get into a rut. I see that as a rut instead of a consistent ritual. I see it as I lose the value of it or the spontaneity of it.
Well, I may have mentioned this before too. I tend to take more pictures throughout the day, but I'm not immediately putting them into my day one journal. What I love about day one is that it pulls all my photo metadata in, so location, date, time, so I don't have to worry about that stuff in the moment. I can take photos and still try to be in the moment. Like, for example, I think we've mentioned this before too, like going to a concert or something. Today, if you go to a fairly top 40 band concert, right? What do you expect to see kind of in the crowd?
Teenage girls.
With what?
Phones,
right? Filming it, right?
They'll never watch it later. It's so terrible.
or it'll be pretty terrible quality.
Right. Sure.
And their phones are getting better, right? It'll probably look pretty cool, but it may sound crappy, whatever. The point is, we seem to live behind our screens, and I know I'm saying this as like an employee of an app company, but we seem to live behind our screens a lot, and I've tried to be more conscious about that. Like at a concert, sure, take a photo or two, or maybe a quick video or something, but I'm not going to spend the show on my phone because I'm there with these other people, and like for me, going to a concert or something like that is like this wonderful shared experience, right? And so if I can take a few photos and then add them later into an entry, that's usually my routine, is take photos throughout the day, and at the end of the day kind of have an inventory.
Makes sense.
Add photos to entries, and I'll separate them by location. That's kind of how I generally do it. So if I change venues or whatever, if I'm traveling, then I'm doing an entry for each location because I love that location data in my entry. I love the pins on my map when I print out my book or whatever it is. So mine isn't like I've got to sit down in my chair every night at 9:00. Mine's more like, oh, I had some cool pictures today. I'm going to add those to my day one journal, and I can do that really easily.
The time to do that, though, is that just spontaneous whenever?
Okay. Yeah.
It's been a while. It's time to do it.
Yeah, but that's the other great thing. Like stuff with Activity Feed, I can see my past 6 weeks of where I was, what pictures I took, what social's not really working in there, but I can see those things for the past 6 weeks and historically journal if I need to. I try to do it same day. And I generally remember. I mean, it's pretty easy when you work for day one, right? It's usually on my mind. But yeah, and whatever works for you. I'm glad that this is something that works for Daniel, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people that would benefit from that routine. Absolutely. There's definitely more than one way to do it, though, for sure.
For sure, yes. I love it, too, when I do these discussions, when I ask about the first entry. He was able to pull it right up and share it with me. And, that memory of having the first connection to electronic diary is really cool.
Yeah.
Let's skip the clip, though. We're going to move along with some of his journals. Here's his gratitude journal.
I've got my classic daily journal. And then something else I've started recently is an affirmations journal. So what I do is I write every single day. Well, I'm still getting to the every single day part of it, but most days in the morning, when I get to work, what I do is I open up my affirmation journal and I just write things that I'd like to affirm to myself, like some of my goals that I have. Some of them are long term, some of them are very long term, some of them are short term, some of them are just goals for that day, and it will be things like, I will be able to meet this project deadline. I will be able to have a successful career. I will be able to, be more kind to other people. And even though I find myself writing the same things every single day, that's I guess that's the whole point of the affirmations journal. And what's interesting is that sometimes when I'm writing, recording something in an affirmation journal, I have to stop because I think to myself, is this really what I want? Because when I write it down, it's almost, I feel as if I'm almost committing to it a bit more. And the point of the affirmation journal is not necessarily for anyone to go and read it again one day. It's for me to have it so that I can keep a record and then look back and see over time, each day how I've affirmed to myself my goals and my plans, short-term and long-term. And I think it's very powerful being able to, write these things down and affirm to yourself your goals and who you are and what you want to do and what you want to achieve.
I feel like that's a common denominator with successful people. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't know. No, I know. You're right.
Come on, you do too.
You're right.
Like Warren Buffett.
Sure.
He's a goal setter, book reader.
Right.
I bet you could say the same thing about Bill Gates,
sure,
or any number of successful people. And I say that I'm speaking about billionaires, obviously, and I don't know if that's the true measure
of success.
You run with. Nah, I wish.
Yeah. There's some great stuff in there.
That's not the true measure of success, but my point is, they work hard, but they're also like setting goals for themselves and building those routines that are going to walk them into more opportunities, I think. Yes. I'll say it that way.
And I misspoke. It's not his gratitude journal. It was a affirmation which I love a couple points in there. One is that he said, it's okay if you use it again. And I think sometimes when I do this, I go through phases where I want to do affirmations and I think, it's got to be unique or different every day. I definitely don't nail the affirmation that one day and never need to see it again. So why wouldn't you want to use it again?
Absolutely.
They're great. And I think he makes great points there of, it's by saying it, by viewing it and writing it down, you're somewhat committing yourself to this rather than just a thought, it'd be nice if I did that sometime.
You start becoming it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Good stuff. Related to that, he has a thoughts journal. I love this idea.
That's one of the journals I have. And then another journal I have is just a thoughts journal. So if I have something meaningful that comes to mind, then I just write it down in my thoughts journal. Mm-hmm. Again, the thoughts journal is not necessarily intended for anyone to read it one day, but mostly for myself to go back and look and see what I said or refer to later. Mm-hmm. So those are the three journals that I have currently.
Awesome. The next question I asked is tags, to tag or not to tag.
That's the age-old question.
That's right.
I do not use tags at all. Okay. I actually started, when I first started journaling, I used tags. And then I think I found that I was putting so many tags in one thing. I wasn't sure, like, okay, do I put this tag under here or there? And then I was just like, oh, nah. Mm-hmm. I just won't use tags. Sure. But I found that if I do need to search for something using just the regular search functionality, I'm able to find what I need in the text.
That's me too.
It's an organizational preference. I think that's what I'm finally coming to grips with. It's not like you're wrong for not using tags or multiple journals or right the other way. It's just an organizational preference. Like, how do you want to be able to find, collate, organize your data for later use? Like, how do you? And I've had questions about that. Well, what do I do? I've got all these tags. It's unwieldy. You don't really have to do anything. Like, if it's really bugging you, like, I can show you how to consolidate or rename or whatever. But just an organizational preference. There's no right or wrong.
Seems like it'd be hard to make that choice midstream. So if you've gone years writing in day one and then decide you want to add tags, do you go back and
it could be entries? It could be, but then again, you can also use the multi-select tool to tag multiple entries. Let's say you find some that, I don't know, fit a location or fit a person or whatever. You can tag those all at once, so it's not as bad.
Nice. And
you can edit multiple tags at once, so that's also good.
Daniel had a tip that relates to that on this day.
Awesome.
Check this out.
My favorite feature.
So one thing that I do is I know a lot of people really love the on this day feature, myself included. What I like to use the on this day feature for also is to go back and also edit past entries. Because like I mentioned before, sometimes when I'm writing my journal, I fall asleep and then and then the end of the entry is just like garbage. It's like, I don't know what I was trying to say. And then just fix typos, and it's a way of editing. And then, you don't have to think about, I've got to go back and I've got now I've got over 2,000 entries, to go and edit all of that just feels overwhelming. But if you just every day go and have a look at your on this day, read one entry from previous years and just maybe fix a few typos, then that's a way to kind of, edit your entries as you go.
I like that.
Yeah, agreed.
Great
And it's a good way to, I don't know, you're not spending too much time on an entry in the moment,
right?
But later on, if it comes up, and you're like, I should fix that or add to it. That's another request that's come through a few times, is being able to comment on an entry without editing the whole thing. And I think that's a pretty cool idea. That's definitely has some benefits. This is not me promising anything, anybody. Just make that clear. But I thought that was kind of a neat idea to consider. But being able to edit your entries from on this day is awesome.
But I love that rather than feeling the overwhelm
of,
oh my gosh, I probably have typos all over the place. This is the way to do it, just as it comes up organically on this day. Lastly, let's finish with Daniel's favorite feature of day one.
Well, one thing I like, this also goes back to the affirmations journal that I created, is being able to set the text for the notification. So what I've done is on the reminder, the text for the reminder. And what I've done is I've set a custom text for the affirmations journal. And what I do also as part of the affirmations journal to try and build a lot of positivity and, try and help me to focus. I have a little routine that I try and follow that is mentioned in the notification, where it says, smile, sit up straight, and record your affirmations. So when I see that, when the notification comes up, it says to me, instead of saying, it's time to write in your journal, it says, smile, sit up straight, and record your affirmations.
I love it.
I do that. And then another thing, so that's one of my favorite features, is being able to set that notification text. And another thing which I've done with my affirmations journal is try to, what I did is I made the color of the journal a bright, positive color. So I made it that orange, that yellow type of orange color, because that to me associates with positivity. And so when I open up the journal, I see that nice bright color, and it helps, so I guess, using that's probably my favorite features, the custom text notification, because of how it reminds me and helps me focus.
It's funny when you said sit up, we both. That's right, posture.
No. Have you seen that device that you can stick in the middle of your back and it buzzes you? Oh man, I feel like I need that, but then also I feel like a dummy wearing it. I do need a good shock to help me sit up straight.
Yeah, but I love that idea. Just that little visual, audible reminder as he reads it, and he's like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah, I like the customization is pretty cool there in the notifications and reminders. There's 3 different system notifications you can choose in day one, plus the custom ones, and you can customize the message that it's sent to you on your custom reminders. You can customize a template, which when the reminder comes in as a notification, you tap on that, it loads your template right into an entry. So that's one way to use templates now.
Right.
And it's not invasive at all. It's the notification that you set up. So if it's 9 p.m. and you're sitting in your favorite chair, that notification comes in, you tap on it, your template loads in, and you're ready to go.
Nice. thank you, Daniel, for the interview. The discussion was great.
Yeah, appreciate it, Daniel. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of our listeners who come in here and pay attention, get tips. Thank you for those that have provided any. If you have any information you'd like to provide for us, you can schedule a call with Brett, link below. Check it out in the description. If you need help with assistance with anything in Day One, there's a couple of things you can do. Let me tell you about the Day One Facebook community, with a caveat that I know some people don't love Facebook, and I gotcha. I'm with you
personally.
But right now, it's a great place for our group to be. It's well supported by a lot of people. I won't go into my personal issues, but there are 4,500 Day One users in the group right now, and 98% of the time, it's just users talking to each other about different tips and tricks, sharing their use. So that is a great resource if that is something that you want to do. Go to facebook.com/day1community, right?
Right. Yep.
There's no groups in there?
No. Nope.
Anyway.
I'll double check, but no, I don't. I remember not.
Yeah, I think you're right. If you still need assistance, we do have help guides with tips and tutorials at help.day1app.com. There's even a chat there if you need to chat into support, or you can contact us. Go to day1app.com/contact for all the contact options, including an in-app chat on iOS and Android, or an email solution, or self-service, etc. So if you need help, let us know. We're around during typical business hours in the Mountain Time zone. And I think that's it for this week. We'll be back in 2.
Right.
We're not 100% sure what's going on. We kind of wait and see how development is going and then make decisions as we get closer. So that's kind of how Brett and I set these up. But
keeping it real.
Absolutely. So if there's some development that's coming out and we're ready to go on that, we'll try to have an engineer on to talk about kind of the back end stuff. I think that's fascinating, and I love learning about that. So, and if not, we'll have more user interviews, which we also love. We love hearing from you. So yeah, thanks for joining us this week and all weeks. Make sure you subscribe and leave us a good review. We'd love it.
Thanks so much.
Talk to you in a couple weeks. Bye.